I was sitting at my son's dinner table, enjoying a warm meal, when my phone buzzed. I thought it was nothing, maybe a spam call or a friend checking in. But when I answered, it was my neighbor, her voice tight with unease. She asked me a question that sent a chill racing down my spine. "Who's in your house right now?" My stomach dropped. Because I wasn't home, I was miles away. And in that instant, I knew something was very, very wrong. If you've ever had someone cross a line so deeply that it felt like a violation of your very soul, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this isn't just a story about a break-in. It's a story about betrayal, justice, and a revenge so satisfying it still gives me chills. Let me back up. I'm not a rich man, but I've worked hard for everything I have. My home isn't a mansion, but it's mine. Every corner of it tells a story. The scuffed wooden banister, where my kids used to run their toy cars. The old recliner in the living room, where my wife would fall asleep watching her favorite soap operas. Even the smell of the place, a mix of old wood, coffee, and faint lavender from my late wife's candles, made it feel like home. After she passed away, the house became even more sacred to me. It wasn't just four walls. It was the place where her laughter still seemed to linger in the air, where the echoes of family dinners and birthday parties still lived. That house held my history, my love, my grief, and my peace. And I guarded it like a treasure. So when my son invited me over for dinner that night, I locked up, double-checked the doors, and felt good knowing my neighbor Linda kept an eye out. She was the kind of neighbor everyone wishes they had. Attentive, no nonsense, and always ready to pick up the phone if something looked off. That evening was perfect at first. My son had cooked pasta, his wife made garlic bread, and my grandson was telling me jokes he clearly found much funnier than the rest of us did. For a brief moment, I forgot about the loneliness that often followed me home. I forgot about the long, empty nights in my quiet house. I just enjoyed being surrounded by family. Then came the phone call. Linda's voice was sharp, urgent. "Hey, are you home right now?" I told her no, I was at my son's. Silence. Then, "Well, someone is. Your back porch light just flicked on, and I swear, I saw movement inside your living room window." Everything inside me froze. My fork clattered onto my plate. My son leaned closer, whispering, "Dad, what is it?" But I couldn't answer. My heart was hammering. My palms went cold. Every instinct screamed that my sanctuary, my safe place, was being violated. I finally managed to choke out, "Someone's in my house." The next few minutes blurred together. My son grabbed his keys. His wife told us to call the police, and with trembling fingers, I did. My voice cracked as I explained to the dispatcher what Linda had seen. They promised officers were already on their way. The drive felt like hours. Red lights mocked us, cars moved too slowly. My son kept glancing at me, trying to calm me down, but I was barely breathing. What if they're tearing the place apart? What if they're after her jewelry? What if they've touched her photo albums? The thought of strangers, filthy hands pawing through the few precious things I had left of my wife made my stomach twist. By the time we pulled onto my street, I was shaking with a cocktail of fear and rage. Police cars were already there, lights flashing against the night. The officers told us to wait outside while they entered. I stood on the lawn, fists clenched, praying they'd catch whoever it was. Minutes later, one officer waved us in. My heart pounded as I stepped through the door, bracing myself for the sight of some stranger. But when I saw who was standing in my living room, hands cuffed behind his back, I nearly collapsed. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some desperate thief. It was my brother. When I first saw him standing there, my brain couldn't process it. My knees felt weak, my stomach twisted. No, not him. Anyone but him. But it was him, my own brother. The man I'd grown up with, shared a bedroom with his kids. The one I used to defend from bullies in school. The one I loaned money to more times than I could count. And now, he was in my house, my sanctuary, rifling through my things like a common thief. My voice came out hoarse, almost a whisper. Why are you here?" He had the audacity to look surprised, like I was the one intruding. Then came the excuse, sloppy and unbelievable. "I was just checking on things for you, making sure everything was okay." But his eyes gave him away. wide, darting, guilty. And when one officer pulled a small jewelry box out of his pocket, my late wife's jewelry box, the truth hit me like a sledgehammer. He wasn't here to check on things. He was here to steal from me. Here's the thing. This wasn't new. My brother had always been difficult. The type to borrow money but forget to pay it back. The type to skip family gatherings, then complain no one told him about them. He had excuses for everything. He was down on his luck. He needed a little help. And I gave it to him, again and again, because he was family. But now, looking at him in handcuffs, it all clicked. Every favor he'd asked, every little way he'd leaned on me. It was never about brotherhood. It was about what he could take. And tonight, he'd gone too far. I could barely speak, but when I finally did, my voice shook with fury. You broke into my house. You went through her things. He flinched. He knew who I meant. My wife had been gone for years, but her memory still lived in this house. Her belongings weren't just objects. They were sacred. He tried again, stammering. I wasn't stealing. I thought you wouldn't mind. You weren't using it. I needed it. Needed it. Like my grief was a convenience store. Like the last reminders of my wife were his for the taking. The officer holding him shook his head. Save it for the station, he muttered before leading him outside. Word spreads fast in families, especially when police cars are parked in front of your house. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing with calls and texts. My mother's voice was the first I heard. She was crying, begging me not to press charges. He's your brother. He made a mistake. Don't ruin his life over this. Ruin his life? He had broken into my home. He had stolen from me. And still, I was the one being painted as cruel if I didn't just let it slide. Then came the cousins, the uncles, the family friends. Some were supportive, saying he'd gone too far. Others echoed my mother, urging me to forgive. Blood is blood, they said. But here's the thing. Blood means nothing without respect, without trust. And that night my brother had proven he had neither. I barely slept. I sat in my living room, staring at the spot where he'd been caught, turning everything over in my head. Could I forgive him? Could I let this go? I thought about the countless times I'd covered for him, the money I'd lost, the lies I'd believed, the way he always assumed I'd just clean up his messes. And then I looked at my wife's jewelry box, her favorite necklace still nestled inside, the one she wore on every anniversary. If the police hadn't come in time, he would have sold it for pocket change. That was my breaking point. No more excuses. No more covering. No more loyalty to someone who saw me as nothing but a source of easy gains. That night I made my choice. I would press charges. And not only that, I would make sure everyone knew exactly what he had done. The next day, I went to the station. He was in holding, eyes red, hair a mess. The moment he saw me, he launched into a performance worthy of an actor. Please, you can't do this to me. I was desperate. I didn't mean to hurt you. Just tell them you won't press charges, please. I stared at him through the glass, feeling a strange calm wash over me. You didn't just break into my house, I said slowly. You broke into our life. You tried to take from her memory, and I'm done protecting you. He slammed his fists on the table, eyes blazing. You're choosing things over family? No, I replied. I'm choosing respect over betrayal. And I walked out, leaving him shouting after me. That's when I realized pressing charges wasn't just about getting justice. It was about reclaiming my power. For years, I'd let my brother walk over me. He thought I'd always fold, always forgive. But this time I wasn't backing down. I told the detective I wanted to move forward with the case. No deals, no family interference, full prosecution. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about stopping him. This was about showing him, and everyone else, that I would never again be the man they could take advantage of. After that jailhouse visit, things escalated fast. My brother thought I'd cave, that I'd listen to the pleas of my mother, the guilt-tripping calls from cousins, the whispered accusations that I was being heartless. But I didn't. Every time someone told me to forgive him, I remembered the sight of that jewelry box in his pocket. I remembered how my stomach twisted when Linda asked me who was in my house. And I remembered the years of excuses, the years of being used. The detective worked with me to document everything. Forced entry on the back door, fingerprints all over my drawers, the jewelry box he'd pocketed. They built a solid case. And when the prosecutor told me they were moving forward, I felt a strange mix of dread and relief. This wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. That's when the phone calls turned nastier. My brother's girlfriend called me, voice dripping with venom. "You're really going to do this to your own flesh and blood? He was just trying to survive. You're pathetic." I hung up. Then my mother showed up at my house, tears streaking her face. "You don't understand," she cried. "He's had it rougher than you. You've always had the good job, the house. He's just struggling. Please don't destroy him." I wanted to scream. Destroy him? He'd broken into my home. He'd nearly destroyed me. Instead, I said quietly, "He made his choices, and now he'll live with them." She sobbed harder, but I didn't bend. The day of the hearing, my stomach churned. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and old paper. My shoes echoed against the marble floors as I walked into the room. And there he was, my brother. Hair combed, suit wrinkled, eyes darting nervously. When our eyes met, I saw it. Not remorse, not shame. Hatred. He thought I was the villain, that by holding him accountable I was betraying him. But I didn't look away. Not this time. When it was my turn to testify, I took a deep breath. My palms were sweaty, but my voice was steady. I told the jury about that night. The phone call from Linda, the rush of fear, the sickening sight of him in my living room, the jewelry box in his pocket. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. And as I spoke, I noticed jurors leaning forward, brows furrowing. They weren't just hearing a burglary case. They were feeling the betrayal, the violation of trust. When I finished, I glanced at my brother. His jaw was tight, his face red. He knew the story was sinking in. His lawyer tried to spin it. "Wouldn't you agree your brother was simply desperate? Isn't it possible he thought you wouldn't mind him borrowing something temporarily?" I stared at the man, then shook my head. No, because locks don't break themselves, drawers don't ransack themselves, and people don't to carry family heirlooms in their pocket if they were just checking on the house. The room went silent. It didn't take long. The jury found him guilty. The judge sentenced him to probation, community service, and, most importantly, a permanent mark on his record. His job, gone, his reputation, shattered. Every family gathering from then on would carry the shadow of what he'd done. And me? I finally felt like I'd drawn a line in the sand. But the sweetest part wasn't the legal punishment. It was the fallout. My brother, who'd always been smug, who'd always acted untouchable, suddenly had nowhere to turn. The same family who begged me to forgive him now whispered about him behind his back. Friends he'd used for years stopped returning his calls. And when he tried to look at me with that mix of rage and humiliation, I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just stared back, calm and unshaken. Because the real revenge wasn't T watching him punished. It was watching him finally realize he could never use me again. That night after the sentencing, I went home. I walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the photos. My sanctuary had been violated, yes, but it had also been defended. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a victim of my brother's selfishness. I felt free. When I locked the door behind me, the sound was sharp, final. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly safe. Here's the thing about family. Sometimes they can betray you in ways a stranger never could. And forgiveness? Forgiveness only means something when the person is willing to change. My brother thought I'd always cover for him, always clean up his messes, always choose blood over respect. But blood means nothing without loyalty, without trust. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't anger or cruelty. It's finally saying, enough, and watching the person who underestimated you face the consequences of their own choices. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. And tell me in the comments, What would you have done if it was your own brother standing in your living room with your loved one's belongings in his pocket? And don't forget, subscribe for more stories of revenge, karma, and justice served. Because trust me, there are plenty more.